right, so good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. My thought that I am working with this week, and often I say I'm working on it this week, but it means I'm working on it this lifetime. So it's not like we're done with it when the week comes to an end and we move on to something else, as these lessons or these teachings layer upon each other. So we're always finding that whatever we think we're working on is it's going to lead us into the next thing, or it's going to become interwoven with whatever the next understanding and whatever the next teaching is, whatever the next layer is. So we're always doing that. But where I am finding myself is in looking at and experiencing fatigue. Right. And fatigue, not just in a physical sense, because again, we can be tired, right? It's one thing to be tired. It's one thing to have ongoing levels of tiredness that we call fatigue, where we just cannot muscle up, or we can't make ourselves be more energetic. Like we just can't keep pulling from ourselves anymore. But this happens to us, not just physically, but it happens to us emotionally. It happens to us mentally. It happens to us on even what we would call the psychic or the energetic levels, that we experience fatigue. And I've heard this phrase, being used a lot recently for whatever reason, but, compassion fatigue, where whatever you think you have a tolerance for a while, and this is often the case when you have whatever ongoing challenges emotionally with people or situations, is that you get kind of into a state where you just no longer have the tolerance for it. You start to lose patience. You start to lose a feeling of your own good place in the relationship. And that's really the definition, is that you no longer feel like you can do what you've been doing easily. You're not interested in being positive. You're not interested in being nice. You're not interested in being compassionate anymore, right? You just want things the way that you want them. And this is sure a lot of the world right now, is we just want things the way that we want it. But this is human beings all the time, right? So we're seeing it on a collective level, maybe in ways that we haven't before, but this is us all the time. Right? As we hit those edges in ourselves where we just say, I'm tired of practicing and I just want things to be the way that I want them to be. I'm tired of being the nice one. I'm tired of being the compassionate one. I'm tired of being the one that looks like or feels like I'm trying so much harder than everyone else. I just want to stop and be indulging in whatever my indulgences are. I just want to do that. I want the break. And so that's where I'm finding myself, is just being in that moment where knowing that that's what I want is to just stop and indulge. And also knowing that to do that is only going to feel good for a smidgen of an instant, right? It's not going to actually change the state of anything. It's not going to actually bring about much of a relief, right? Because at some point that indulging starts to be its own kind of suffering. It starts to be its own kind of weight. So what we struggle with, or what we try and work with in our yoga practice, is realizing when you are hitting that edge of fatigue, I just want things to be that I want them to be, and letting the mind kind of let go of the stress of that inescapable feeling, right? Is to let go of that feeling that I have to kind of make this feel better than it does, and to let yourself really go into that state of not apathy, but a state of neutrality, right? So it's where we're no longer trying. This is the answer to the fatigue. It's where we're no longer trying to make ourselves feel better, but we're actually just letting ourselves move into somewhere else, right? Because if you keep trying to generate compassion, you keep trying to generate a feeling that is not genuine, is that it will feel like it's stressful, like it's effort, and that like it's ridiculous, because you can't keep doing it, right? Those reserves just can't keep being pretended. So when we say fake it till you make it, right, we don't mean that to the point where you are exhausting your emotional reserves. When you are exhausted, you stop trying, right? And that's a subtle difference to say, I'm going to stop trying for a while, and I'm going to indulge myself in the other direction, right? That's my point, is that you're in that moment of deciding, do I just stop trying for a while, say it's really okay for me to let the irritation and let all of that other emotional stuff be there, not trying to shove it under the umbrella of compassion. I'm not trying to generate it, but instead I'm going to let myself just move to something that's neutral. I'm going to stop trying. And the neutral is the beautiful place where, again, we're not indulging our negative feelings, or we're not indulging, the complete breakdown of everything that we've just put effort into, that we're stepping away from, is we're not indulging our destructiveness, but we're looking for a place that's just neutral. Say, I don't have to try so hard to keep this going. I don't have to try so hard and think that it's going to make things better, right? So just dealing with fatigue on all of those levels and knowing that it's perfectly normal and perfectly okay to say, I'm going to take a break. You know, for today, I'm not going to try to generate compassion. For today, I'm not going to smile when I don't mean it. For today, I'm not going to pretend that I don't think that this situation is terrible or that situation is shitty or that this relationship is awful or whatever. I'm going to stop pretending for a day that I can somehow get past that. And that's a beautiful place to be. So that's what we're practicing, is the end of fatigue, right? How do you get out of fatigue? Is don't indulge, don't go the other direction, but just give yourself the break where I don't have to try. I don't have to keep generating what doesn't feel like it's naturally there. So comfortable seat, eyes closed. And let your breath get really long and deep, kind of with that exhale that you do when you really give up on something. You say, oh, it's raining today. I guess I'm not going out to fly a kite, you know. Okay, that's really not going to work today. Exhale. There's a nice release in that we can just exhale and let the mind drop away from what it's gripping and saying, but if we just tried a little harder, let it go. For today, don't try so hard to keep your mind in a happy place, in a stable place. As you're breathing, start to imagine that from the very center of you, so you can imagine that from the heart center if you choose, or from the navel center if you choose, or whatever you think the actual anatomical center of your body is, it's fine. Do you imagine from that center of you that as you inhale, you experience the energy of that breath flowing out in all directions. So it's like you're inhaling into that huge 360-degree expansion. And the exhale is everything drawing all the way back in towards the center. And as you inhale, again, you're expanding out in all directions. And exhaling, everything is drawing from all directions back into that center. And just keep feeling that as the breath expands, your whole awareness expands. And as the breath lets go, your whole awareness drops back into the center. This is one of the vayus, the expanding, going from the center all the way out to the edges and from the edges all the way back in. It's one of the ways that prana moves. That's what the vayus are, is they're winds, they're directional energies that prana moves in, directional patterns. And we're very good typically at that expansiveness, right? That's the trying. Go all the way out to my edges, all the way out to my peripheries until I'm exhausted. And can you do the other part where you allow everything to come back into the center? Draw energy back in. There's just a couple more breaths like that, with that understanding that as you're inhaling, you're expanding all the way out. And on the exhale, you're drawing energy all the way back in. So you're refilling. And you don't have to label what you're refilling with. You're just refilling. It's just prana. Prana is everything. It's every thought you've ever had, positive, negative, indifferent. It's all prana. It's every breath you've ever taken, whether it was short or long. It's every cell of your body is prana. So that's what this practice is you start to refill those pranic reservoirs so that you can maintain your mind in a healthy place, your body in a healthy place. If you've gone too far out to your edges, you've given too much away, tried too hard, you got to stop, let it come back in. One more deep breath, again, expanding out all directions. And the exhale is that emptying where you allow everything to flood back in, prana to flood back in. And then bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. And if you want to stay with that breath visualization throughout the class, you absolutely can. We'll open with the sound of Om, deep breath in. And let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release your hands, please. Then come forward onto hands and knees. Just do a little bit of cat and cow. So knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders. Move your spine, inhaling, lifting the chest up, tailbone up, exhaling, curling and rounding. Good. Moving your spine with your breath. And so the thing is that, when we think about emotions or states of being something that we generate, it's not like you have a finite amount of compassion. And when you get to the end of that, it's like, oh, I got to go to the store and buy more compassion. It's not how it works, right? Same thing with happiness or, sadness or anything. It's not like you have a finite amount of it and you somehow run out of that amount. Is that when our mind keeps going in one direction, is it takes all of those pranic reserves, right? Undifferentiated prana, it just takes all of that pranic reserves and keeps dumping it into that direction. That's where we say your habits matter, whether they're positive or negative, it matters because your prana is being moved in that direction, in that pattern. So when we get into that state where we feel like we have this conflict in us, where we're pushing our prana to its edges, trying to care too much or trying to care so much about one thing or in one way, to the exclusion of a lot of other things, and we start to get that little bit of fatigue, right? Because the body, mind, spirit says, but I need this energy for other things as well. We run out. So it's got to come from somewhere. It starts to come away from compassion and it goes in another direction. It doesn't mean that you are no longer with compassion. It just means that your energy focus has to be somewhere else. There has to be a refilling of those reserves. Good. Come back to stillness, please. And then go ahead and take your right leg back behind you, toes tucked on the floor. So just extend the right leg back to straight. And then drop the right heel flat to the floor and take the right arm up to the sky. Good. Pressing down into that left hand. Let your weight slide forward just a little bit more, but keep that right foot on the floor. And then take your right arm over the ears. So reaching long through the whole length of that side body. Good. One more deep breath. Nice. And then release back to hands and knees, please. And go to the second side. Take your left leg back behind you, toes tucked on the floor. Drop the heel to flat. And then take the left arm up to the sky. So again, pressing into the right shin as well. So you're really keeping a stable base. And then let your right armpit slide forward just a little bit. So you're taking that top of your shoulder more in line with your wrist. Good. And then take the left arm over the ear. So reach full length. Nice. Draw your rib cage in, press back through that baby toe of the left foot. Really good, you guys. And then release back to hands and knees, please. Good. And find your way into downward facing dog. So from hands and knees, tuck your toes, lift your hips. Back to down dog. Good. And then bend your knees, please, and do a little cat-cow in your down dog. So as you bend your knees, you're letting the hips flex, right? You're dropping your hips towards your heels and then moving your spine. Good. So I for sure don't want you to consider that, oh, I have to recharge or I have to recharge my batteries. It means I have to, find compassion again somewhere. No, you don't. You're not refilling yourself with compassion, as you're simply refilling yourself with prana. When you have more pranic energy available to you that's not already promised somewhere else. That's the thing about being overextended, is when our energy is already so bound up in a thinking process or a feeling process that there's just literally nothing left to pull from. It doesn't mean that your challenge is that you no longer can feel compassion. It means that other patterns are demanding more attention. So we can also notice what's demanding our attention and work to dissolve some of that clinging, some of that energetic pull. And then there is more energy to say, I can still be compassionate. I just also maybe have to treat myself in a way that is a little bit more loving or a little bit more meeting the needs that you have, so that you don't feel that there's the conflict. If I don't have enough to do what I want to feel for others and to have what I need to feel for myself. Take your legs to straight, please. Downward facing dog. Good. Slide back forward to plank pose. Sorry. Come forward to plank. You got it. And then drop the right knee to the floor underneath your right hip. Good. Lift the left leg up off the floor in line with your hip. Walk your right fingertips forward. Take your balance with opposite hand, opposite leg. Good. So float the right arm up, left leg is back. Nice. Then draw your low rib cage in and up. So you're feeling yourself really support the lower spine, really support the middle spine. Lift your throat just a little higher. Nice. And then release back to hands and knees, please. Try the second side. So take the right leg back behind you. Really stabilize that left shin so that you're not letting your left hip fall open to the left, as you want to keep it stacked right on top. And then walk your left arm forward to straight. So right leg, left arm lift. Good. And again, you want this feeling of weight on the right hand and on the left shin, and your ribs drawing up. Keep your head in line with your spine. So lift the back of your throat just a little higher. That's it. Nice, Elisa. Good, Joanne. Nice, Mark. Good, you guys. And then slowly release back to hands and knees, please. Good. Take your knees wide, big toes together to touch. Drop your hips back to your heels. Child's pose. Good. And walk your torso to the right over your right thigh. So move your belly to the right. Nice. And then come back to center, please. Move your belly to the left. Good. I think the more that we take away the pressure of saying that one mental state or emotional state means that it excludes all of the others. If I'm happy, it means I can't be unhappy. Or if I feel sad, it means I can't feel this. If I feel compassion, it means I can't feel these other things. And that's where we get stuck in ourselves. And then we get exhausted trying to maintain, you know, all of these realities excluding each other. Come back to center when it's all really one, right? It's all one emotional movement. It's all one emotional state, right? Place of being inside. And we just have our variations of what it feels like, names that we call it. Walk yourself back up onto hands and knees. Come back to downward facing dog. Good. And step your right foot forward between the hands. Long lunge. Good. Inhale the arms up to the sky. High lunge. So keep the feet squeezing towards each other. Good. Arms come all the way up. Nice, you guys. And then take your right hand onto your right hip, please. So you have something to, again, kind of press against. So you're pressing that hip wide. And at the same time, you're making sure that your knee is over your ankle. And then lean to your right as well. So side body stretch. Keep that hand at the hip. Lean to your right. Good. And then really feel the baby toe edge of that back foot. So again, you want that feeling of you're stretching through the outer edge of the thigh. Keep your front knee forward over the ankle. Good. Come all the way back up to center, please. Arms up, both arms up. Nice. And then take your torso forward parallel to the floor. Good. Lift your butt just a little bit higher. That's it. And now stretch your arms back behind you as though you were going to interlace your fingers, but don't. Just lift the arms back behind you and hug the hands, hug the arms as though you have a block between them. And then really lift your collarbones up. Try and roll those arm bones forward and up. That's it. And then hug the arms again without letting the shoulders drop forward. Good. One more breath. Press back through that back heel. Nice. And then release the hands down to the floor, please. Good. Walk your hands inside the front foot, walk to your left, come to the center of your mat, straighten both legs, turn your toes. Prasarita Padottanasana. So walk to your left. There you go. Good, you guys. Good. Finding the hips lifting a little higher, pressing down through the heels. Yeah. Good. Then plant the right hand underneath your chest. Please take the left arm all the way up to the sky, spinal twist. As you twist to the left, pull your right thigh wider to the right, right low belly wider to the right. Good. And then release that hand, switch to the other side, left hand down, right arm up. Again, pushing into that hand, feeling the left low belly and left thigh pull wide to the left. Nice work. Good. And then release that hand down to the floor, please. Beautiful. Take your hands to your hips, come all the way up to stand. Good. Then turn your right toes forward towards the top of your mat. Bend your right knee, come into warrior two. So take your arms wide, knee over the ankle. Good. Then slide the left hand down the left leg, please. Right arm comes all the way up and back, reverse warrior. Keep your front knee really directly over that front ankle though. So don't let yourself come out of the lunge just because you're leaning to the back. Good. This is an interesting thing about fatigue, right? Is that our feelings of I don't want to and our reality of I can't are often two completely different things. And we make them the same. We say, because I don't want to, it means that I can't. And that's not the truth, right? Come all the way back up to center, arms wide. Good. Straighten that front thigh, moving towards Trikonasana. Extend out through that right rib cage. Let the right hand touch down to the front leg floor or block, reaching the left arm to the sky. Try and find where you feel that there is a straight line between your lifted wrist and your lower wrist. So if you could draw a line from wrist to wrist, that it would be a straight line between this through the center of your chest. Good. So for almost all of us, that means that the shoulders and the chest have to move backwards towards the front leg, because they have a tendency to fall forward. Good, you guys. And then stretch that left arm over the ear again, reaching towards the top of your mat, pressing through the baby toe of the back foot. Feel that left hip rising just a little bit higher. So push it up towards the sky. That's it. Good. And then bend the right knee, please. Release both hands down to the floor. Spin your back heel up. Good. Step back, downward facing dog. Nice. Good. Vinyasa if you choose, child's pose if you prefer. Again, sometimes the child's pose is more rejuvenating than the vinyasa. If you're doing the vinyasa, come forward to plank, lower down to your belly, rise up into cobra. Good. Find your way back to downward facing dog. Really nice. And then left foot steps forward between the hands, lunge. Good. Inhale both arms to the sky, high lunge. Good. And then bring your left hand to your outer left hip. And again, you're pressing wide here and watching that your front knee is over the front ankle, right? So it's not falling inward. So pressing wide through the inner thigh as well as the outer hip. And then lean to your left. So side body reach to your left. Good. Keep pressing back through that right heel. Keep your back thigh lifted nice and high and push that left hip into your hand. So don't let it fall in towards the center. Push it wide. Good. And then bring yourself all the way back up to center, please. Arms up. Lean forward, torso parallels the floor. Good. Reach back behind you. This time interlace the fingers if you'd like. Or again, if interlacing the fingers does not work, then just do what you did before, keeping the arms reaching backwards but hugging. Good. And then again, you're not going to drop the head and try and take the arms all the way up. Stay level with the floor. Lift those arm bones forward and up. Good. Hug those upper arms. Keep your elbows a little bit soft and work that feeling of lengthening through the arms. Pull your armpits forward. That's it. Nice, Joanne. Good, Elisa. Excellent. And then release the hands down to the floor. Good job. Walk to your right, please. Turn those left toes, straighten the legs. Prasarita Padottanasana on the second side. Good. Make sure that your hips are on top of your heels, so not hanging back behind them. So your weight might come forward a little bit towards the balls of the feet. And then again, a lifting from your belly to take your hips higher. Nice. Good, you guys. And then start to let yourself just move a little bit. You can turn your toes out to 45 degrees if you'd like, and just let yourself move between side lunges. So you let your right knee bend, letting the pelvis move towards the right, and then come back to center, and then let yourself move to the left. Again, you don't have to come into full deep poses, but let yourself move from side to side. Let the knees bend and soften so that as you move through center, you're not coming into a position where you say, oh, in this position, my knees are locked, and in this position, my knees are bent. Right? I want you to feel a little bit more of that fluidness, that you can move your pelvis from side to side, stretching the groins from side to side. Good. If we really pay attention to ourselves and how much we assume that when we don't want to do something, it means that we can't do it. And that there's a real difference to when we really have just really nothing left to give, as we can say, I really can't do it. And it can also mean that you still want to do it, but you just have nothing left to give. So those two things, knowing that they're not the same, is we are perfectly able to understand those moments where we say, oh, I've got no more compassion to give. And it's like, well, you probably do have it, but in the moment, you just don't want to. And that's perfectly okay. Trying to force yourself in that moment to be compassionate anyway, at the expense of something else, is probably not going to work very well. So you simply acknowledge, in this moment, I'm really struggling to be compassionate. And you open up to that. Come back to stillness, please, where you're back into the straight legs. Turn your toes all the way forward. So again, parallel your feet. And just let your head drop, let your chest drop. Right? It's the spaciousness that we have around our reactions that make them movable. If as soon as we say, I don't want to do something, and we start to get upset about it, is we're done, right? Now we're in the upset pattern. But if we realize, oh, I really don't want to feel compassionate right now, you can say, all right, it's all right to not want to. And you don't have to try, but you can certainly be in that neutral space that says compassion can happen the next breath, the next moment. I don't have to force it. Bring your hands to your hips, come all the way up to stand. Same thing with any emotional state, right? I keep using compassion, but it can be anything. Turn the left toes forward towards the top of your mat. Good. Bend the left knee, come into warrior two, take the arms out wide. Good. So again, that same sensation is what you were just doing with the side lunges of feeling your groins or your thighs pulling away from each other. So it's not just that the front knee bends and the back leg locks, but the front knee bends and the back thigh pulls away. So there's a lengthening through the whole center of the pelvis. Good. And then drop the right hand down the back thigh, left palm spins up and back, reverse warrior. Keep that front knee over the ankle, keep your front thigh dropping into that, again, close to parallel position as it can come. Good. And then bring yourself all the way back up, stretching the arms out wide, straighten the front thigh for Trikonasana. Good. And again, hugging or squeezing the legs towards each other so that you've got real support as you lean forward, extend forward. Whole side body reaches as long as it can. And then that left hand touches down to wherever it naturally does. Again, front leg is fine, floor is fine, block is fine. And try and find where your wrists are in the same line. So your top hand is not falling all the way back behind you. And your bottom arm is not collapsing in front of you, that you're trying to find where there is that, again, neutral relationship. Good, connected relationship. By working with the Vayus, the one that is the expansion, the out to the peripheries and back in is Vyana or Vyana. And it makes us really contemplate is where is the center that we move from and return to? Is the center in your mind, or is the center in your heart, or is the center in your body, or is it somewhere else entirely? What do you consider to be your center? Good. Stretch that right arm over the ear, please. So you get, again, that long side body stretch, reaching from armpit all the way out to the hip, all the way down to the outside edge of that heel. Nice. And then bend the knee, release both hands back down to the floor. Spin your back heel up, step back, downward facing dog. Good. Slide forward to plank pose, upward push up. Drop the right knee down to the floor underneath your right hip. And then take your left leg up, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Bring it all the way up. Walk the right arm forward. Take your balance. Good. And then bend that left knee if you'd like. Kick the heel in towards your butt. Reach back for the foot or the ankle. Good. Try and maintain the same sense of stability that you had before you were reaching for the ankle. So you're not just popping that right butt cheek out to the side. Pull that in. Push wide through that left hip. Good. Nice, you guys. One more breath. Chest up. Yeah. And then release. Extend everything all the way back out. Good. Release the right hand down to the floor. Take your left toes down to the floor and then drop that heel to flat. So again, opening the hip or stacking the hip. Take your left arm up to the sky. Good. And then lean that right shoulder forward over the right wrist. Float your left leg up parallel to the floor again. Good. Feeling that there's a lift from the underside. So the inner thigh lifts up, outer hip contracts. Good. And then bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt again, reach back, find the foot or the ankle. Good. Stretching through the shoulders, through the thigh. So imagine that that line from the top of your pelvis all the way down to your knee doesn't end at your knee. It continues. Good. And your chest continues to lift up and away from the thigh. So you have full length in the front body. Good. And then go ahead and release, extend all the way back out. Nice job. Come back to hands and knees. Good. Drop back to child's pose just for a breath. Let your knees go wide, big toes together to touch. And letting yourself drop into that. Reacquaint yourself with, again, where do you think your center is? Right? Where are you generating your experience? Is it coming a lot from your mind, or is it coming from somewhere else? Because it is very hard for the mind to convince itself to feel compassion, but it's not so difficult for the heart to genuinely feel compassion. It's not so difficult for the body to genuinely feel connection if the mind allows it, right? Walk yourself back up onto hands and knees. So sometimes what we're doing is we're trying to reacquaint ourselves to a center, right, where everything is emanating from and coming back to that is not straight in our mind, right, somewhere else. Take the left leg back behind you. Nope, sorry, right leg back behind you, second side. Drop that, sorry, don't drop it. Lift the leg straight up. Take the left arm forward and balance. So hips facing the floor. Good. And then bend that right knee, take your heel in towards your butt, reach back for the foot or the ankle. And again, if reaching for the foot does not work today or any day, then you can keep that hand behind your head, but still bend the knee and try and lift that thigh a little higher so you get that stretch through the front of your thigh. Good. And then slowly release, extend all the way back out, arm and leg. Nice. And then release the left hand down to the floor. Take your right toes to the floor. Leg is still straight. Drop the heel to flat and then take the right arm up to the sky. So you've now turned your pelvis, stack the right hip on top of the left. There you go. And then lean your weight. Your left armpit comes forward towards your left wrist a little bit more. So you're leaning towards that front edge of your mat. Take the right leg up parallel to the floor. Good. And again, you're looking for there to be sort of this straight line from the top of your head down straight to your heel. And then bend the knee, take your heel in, reach back for the foot or the ankle, and then try and recreate that line from the top of your head down through the tip of your knee. So your knee doesn't need to come back behind you. You can keep it in line with the ribs, which is in line with the pelvis, which is in line with your head. So you just want to get that long stretch on your thigh. Good. Chest open. Nice. And then go ahead and release, extend all the way back out. Release the hand, release the knee. Drop back into child pose again, just for a breath or two, knees wide. Good. Nice, you guys. Moving from the center and arriving back at the center and having that center be not the mind, because the mind exhausts itself very easily. And then when the mind gets over exhausted, as it pulls the energy from everywhere else, from the heart, from the body. When the mind finally gets exhausted, we say, oh, maybe there's, not a lot left to devote to feeling what we really feel. And the great thing is as soon as you just give a little space to that mental activity and say, I don't have to try so hard to maintain that, or to correct it, or to manage it, as you reroute some of that energy back to those fundamental places. Walk yourself all the way back up to hands and knees. Come back downward facing dog. Good. And then walk your feet forward towards your hands. So coming to a standing forward fold, feet underneath the hips. Good. Make sure that there is space between your feet so your feet are not together. Take your right hand to your outer left ankle, please, and then take your left arm to the sky. So right hand reaches for left ankle, left arm reaches all the way up. Good. Pressing inner thighs wide. That's it. And then release and switch. Take the left arm to the outer right ankle, right arm to the sky. So try and really move from your rib cage. So you have your right rib cage lifting up a little higher. There you go. It doesn't matter how far back the arm goes, but really move from your ribs. Nice. And then release that hand down to the floor, please. Good. Bend your knees, please, dropping your hips back towards chair. Take your hands up onto your thighs. So a chair pose, not a full squat. Good. Hands on your thighs, and then cat cow your spine in chair. Nice, you guys. So keeping the hips low, but moving the spine. Good. And then come to stillness, please. Come all the way up to stand. Nice job. And then your right leg is your standing leg. You're going to bend your left knee, kick your heel back towards your butt, reach with the left hand for the foot or the ankle. So you're coming into preparation for dancer pose. So first it's a standing quad stretch. I want you to have the same feeling that as you are reaching for that ankle, you're keeping your chest as lifted as you can, armpit up, but you're looking for that long line of the front of your body all the way down to the tip of the knee. And then try and let that knee slide back in space just so it's in line with the right knee. So it doesn't have to come any further back than that. Just find that neutral. Good. And then from there, add a little bit of pressure of that foot into your hand. Good, and keep that arm bone plugged into the shoulder socket. And now take your right hand to your right hip. Good, keep a little pressure there so you keep your hip nice and wide, and start to lean forward, keeping your heel close in towards your butt. So as you lean forward, you're not trying to lift the foot up off of your butt, but you're trying to just lift the thigh with you. So it's like you're leaning forward towards warrior three, but your knee is bent. So don't worry about the back bend aspect of this. Just lean forward, keep your heel in close towards your butt, and work at lifting that left thigh. Good. Keeping the heel in. Don't try and lift it too high. Just lift the thigh, lift the thigh, lift the thigh. Extend back through the knee. Good. And then slowly bring it all the way back up. Nice. And you're like, that wasn't dancer pose. It was something. Release that foot to the floor. Good. Give yourself a little shake. So again, you stop gripping wherever you're gripping. And then try the other side. So left leg, standing leg, bend your right knee, reach back, right hand for the foot or the ankle. Again, you could always use a strap for this if you really need, if reaching the foot is really difficult. And then keep your left hand at your outer left hip. So again, you have something as sort of a reference of the hand presses in and the hip gently pushes back. So don't lean all the way into that hand, but try and find where your right knee is sliding back to be in line with your left knee. Good. Nice, you guys. And then from there, start to lean forward. Again, there's pressure of the foot back into the hand, but you're not trying to lift that foot off of your butt. So lean forward like you're coming into warrior three, and just start to lift that right thigh up and back behind you. Good. So lean forward, lean forward, lean forward. Take the chest forward and lift that thigh. Work at that. Good. Lean forward, lean forward, lean forward. The more you hesitate in leaning forward, that thigh has nowhere to go. So you got to come forward. I know, ribs in. You got it. And then slowly come all the way back up. I know. Release the foot to the floor. Nice job, you guys. All right. Inhale the arms all the way up to the sky. And then exhale, bow forward. Take the hands down to the floor. Good. Or to your blocks, whatever you're reaching for. Good. All right, with your hands touching something, slide your right leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Not down dog split, sorry, standing split, yikes. So just where you are, slide that right leg up and back behind you, standing split. Good. Nice, you guys. And then again, bend the knee, so you're kicking your heel in towards your butt, squeeze it in, and then try and just lift the thigh higher. So bring that heel higher, lift that thigh higher. That's it. Good. And now up on your fingertips, lift your collarbones higher, lift your armpits higher, like you're going to take your head to the back of your heel to the back of your head, but keep lifting that thigh high, high, high. Good. And squeeze the heel in. Nice. Good. Now drop the head, drop the upper body, kick your thigh up just a little bit higher, and then re-straighten that leg, press out through the heel. Yeah. Nice, Joanne. Good. And then release that foot down to the floor, please. Nice. Separate your feet nice and wide, coming into squat, turning the toes out if you'd like. Or if squat is not available, you can just hang out in a wide-legged forward fold. Good. Give yourself a breath, even here, hugging the knees against your elbows going wide into the knees. And feel again your breath expanding on the inhale, going out in all directions. And the exhale, drawing all the way back into whatever your imagined center is, and try and place it somewhere that is not in your mind, right? Your mind is not the center of you. It's a place that is moving a lot of energy around, but it's not the center of you. It's not where the energy originates. It's not where the reservoirs exist, but it is where a lot of our output goes. So can you go deeper in? Have that center be somewhere deeper in. The whole practice of yoga is there's something beyond my mind that is so fundamentally bigger and more powerful and endless. How can you be fatigued? How can you be tired if you are endless? Mind gets tired. Good. Release the hands. Take your legs back to straight. Good. Turn your toes forward, maybe heel toe your feet a little closer. So again, your feet are underneath your hips, but there should still be space between them. and hands touching something. So if you can't touch the floor comfortably, make sure you have blocks under your hands or books or whatever you have available that you can put under them. And then slide your left leg up and back into standing split. Good. And then bend the knee, kick your heel in towards your butt. Squeeze it in. And then lift that thigh a little bit higher. So again, you're really working at this ability to lift through the thigh, to actually stretch through the thigh. Good. Squeeze that heel in. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then up on your fingertips, lift your chest as well. So again, almost like you're trying to come into that warrior 3 position with the leg lifted. Squeeze that heel in. Good. Nice, nice, nice. Top of the right thigh, that's your standing thigh, pulls back. Beautiful. Now drop the head again, please. As your head drops, your shoulders drop, kick that left thigh even higher. And then start to straighten the legs. Extend all the way back out through that left heel. Good. And feel that pull, even as the head drops like an anchor, that helps to extend the thigh. It helps to extend the whole body. It's not just the legs straightening, it's the whole body extending from your armpit all the way out through that heel. Good. And then release that foot all the way down to the floor. Nice job, you guys. Step yourself back to downward facing dog. Good. Come forward to plank pose, upward push up. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Come all the way down to your belly. Then rising up into cobra, point the toes, drag back, lift up head, neck, and chest. Good. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Find your way all the way back. Nice. Good. Right foot steps forward between the hands, lunge. Drop the back knee, use a blanket there if you'd like. Anjaneyasana, inhale the arms all the way up to the sky. Good, again, letting your pelvis move forward just a little bit more. Good, nice, you guys. Beautiful, and then keep the right arm where it is. Take your left hand to your left hip. Yep, so you feel, again, a little push into that hand, so you keep your hips wide, and then start to slide that left hand back behind you, reaching down that left leg any amount. So you're leaning back, keeping your chest super high, and leaning back, letting that left hand travel down the thigh, maybe towards the calf, maybe towards the ankle, who knows. Keep that front foot flat, though. Chest up, big back bend. Nice, big reach. Beautiful. And then come all the way back up, navel to spine. Really good, Mark. Nice, Marlene. Nice, Joanne. And then release the hands down to the floor, please. Good. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee, step your left foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Konasana. Good. And focusing on lengthening of the body. This idea that it's not so important to do a lot of it's important to do every form of movement. But then when we really get into this comprehension or this sense of how long we are, right? The extension of all the way out into your peripheries. And freeing up the movement there. That's part of the Vyana practice, right? Is how do I free up movement to my peripheries? So how do I get my knees and my hips and my shoulders to be open so that blood flows, prana flows easily in all those directions? Good, you guys, one more breath. Nice. And then bend that right knee, please. Wiggle your left leg back more into a lunge, and then take that right leg up and back behind you into down dog split. So stretch that right leg all the way back and up. Right? Am I crazy? Right leg is forward, so the front leg comes back. Good. So your right leg is up and back behind you, down dog split. Okay. And then bring that right knee forward in wide pigeon pose. It's okay if you got yourself all backwards. Good. And again, setting your pelvis as level as you can. So really draw that right low belly wide and pull your outer left hip forward. That's the more important thing, is the more you try and scoot your left hip point forward, is your right hip point has the ability then to open wider. Right? So it's not the struggle with the front hip, it's the orientation of the back hip that makes a lot of difference. Good. And then go ahead and walk yourself forward onto your forearms or blocks, whatever you'd like to have. Nice, you guys. Right, so we have this endless capacity. We have an endless capacity to feel everything. That's the amazingness of everything. The amazingness of the system is that you have an endless capacity to feel. The question is, how much is your mind willing to put up with, right? And that's where we get into that. I don't want to, therefore I can't. Well, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of it, but it means that your energies are oriented somewhere else in that moment. And that contradictory sort of reality of how do I be happy and unhappy at the same time, or how do I be compassionate and angry at the same time, or whatever it is, that's what gets fatiguing, right? Or it gets fatiguing saying I have to be one of these things but not the other. How do I make that happen? Becomes fatiguing. How do I maintain this facade of being the type of person that I think that I should be, or having the type of feelings that I think that I should have? The teachings say, well, maybe stop trying for a little bit. Release that pressure of trying to maintain something that is maybe not maintainable. And remember, the simple remembrance is that it can come back the next moment. Compassion can be there the next moment. Because your capability is not gone, but your mind is tired. So we give it a break. Give the emotional self a break. I don't have to be this way or not that way. I also don't have to indulge my destructiveness. And don't worry if you're like, I don't have destructiveness. Yes, you do. We all do. We have those destructive patterns in our minds. It's all right. Don't be upset about it. Just don't indulge it. Or don't indulge it too much. Good. Go ahead and walk yourself back up onto your elbows here, or all the way up onto your hands, because I want you to be able to come into a quad stretch. So bend your back knee, take your heel in towards your butt, reach back with your opposite hand as the foot. So the right hand reaches back for that left foot. There you go. Yep. So again, you might have to be all the way up on your left hand to make that possible, but if you can be on the forearm, that also works. Stack the shoulders, really open the chest towards the right. So you're really twisting. Yeah, it's a twisting quad stretch. So you got to twist. Good. And you're keeping that heel in line with the hip. Nice, nice, nice. Good. Dig that right thigh down and forward. Sorry, left thigh down and forward. Good. And then slowly release, please. Nice face, Mark. Plant the hands, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, downward facing dog. Good. Yeah, a lot of quad stuff today because I feel like this is one of the places where we grip a lot. We overexert, we overextend. Good. All right, step your left foot forward between the hands. You're dropping the right knee, coming into Anjaneyasana. Jeez. Who else's mind is tired? Good, and letting that knee, letting the pelvis slide forward. Good. And then keeping your left arm up alongside your ear, take your right hand to your right hip. Yep. And then feel that hip pushing just a little bit wide. So again, you have this sensation as you push one hip wide, you push the other hip wide at the same time. So it's a widening from the center, right? Again, it's Viana. How do I go from the center outward? Good. And then keep that arm lifted. Take your collarbones up even more. Start to take it into a little bit of a back bend as you slide that right hand down the right thigh, the back of the right thigh, any amount. So you might bring it all the way down towards the calf or towards the ankle. You might keep it at the lower spine. Good. And absolutely left hand can come behind the head if having the arm extended does not work. Really nice, Mark. Nice, Elisa. Good, Marlene. Nice, Joanne. Keep weight on that front heel. Don't lean so far back that you forget about the front leg. Good. And then bring yourself all the way back up to center. Really good. And then take the hands down to the floor. Nice job. Lift that back knee up. Step your right foot forward just a little bit. Take both legs to straight, Parsvottanasana. And this idea of working through the length of our body, the periphery. Good. Marlene, I would separate your feet a little wider, right and left. There you go. Especially because you're wearing denim shorts. You want to give yourself all the space you can. Most of you have probably heard me say this, but when I was still a pretty new teacher, you have stress dreams about whatever it is that, you're doing, that you care about, or that you're worried about having a bad experience with. So I used to occasionally have these like stress dreams that I was going to teach, and I was always running late. That was always the thing, is I was late, or I couldn't find the room, or whatever, something like that. And so I would get to where I was supposed to be teaching, and there would be people who were always dressed completely inappropriately. Like they would be in like tight jeans and, cowboy boots or high heels, or like really nonsensical things where I'm like, how am I supposed to teach people who are doing this? So, it's totally okay that you can practice yoga pretty well in regular street clothes. It's just funny when that's the circumstance. I look at that and I'm like, well, at least they're not wearing high heels. So go ahead and let this go. Bend that left knee, slide your right leg back just a little bit further. So you're taking it towards a longer lunge, and then plant your hands. And from there, take the left leg, front leg back to down dog split. So again, all you did was lengthen the lunge, take your front leg back and up, down dog split. There you go. It's just harder to do from Parsvottanasana to do that transition. So you got to lengthen the lunge first. Good. Now bring that left knee forward and wide for pigeon pose. Again, after you found that long extension in the split, then you bring it forward and wide. And as you drop that back knee, again, think of bringing that right hip slightly forward, twisting it slightly forward so that your left top pelvis bone, left hip point, can move wider to the left. There you go. Yeah, call this squaring the pelvis. Good. And then once you find that position that feels pretty stable, pretty neutral, then walk yourself forward onto your forearms, blocks, whatever it is that you're using as support. Good. Our hope is that, we don't do this constant sort of ping-ponging where we give up on those feelings that are very connecting us to humanity, because we think that it's too hard to maintain it. And even that, if we think, oh, it's getting really difficult for me to maintain this feeling because I have another part of me that is feeling disconnected from other people or this situation or whatever it is, then we can observe that. We can work with that. We can work with those places where we feel like we can't stay in that open state because we have these other emotions that insist on our attention, that insist that they are valuable too, and they are. But we remember that we try not to indulge too much those patterns of unhappiness, or those patterns of suffering, or those patterns that take us away from the rest of the world, that take us away from, again, that center place that is neutral, that is harmonious, that is able to connect to what might not make sense to us, but is still what we're interconnected with. So our capacity never goes away, but our mind's ability to generate an experience or hang on to an experience in a certain manner certainly has its limits. So we practice to find those edges in us and recognize them, and we practice to find the center of us that is not oriented in our mind. Because from there is in you endless compassion, there is in you endless patience, there is in you endless everything. And if in any moment the mind says, I don't want to do it, that's fine. But don't mistake that I don't want to with I can't. And if a feeling is not there yet, and you say, I really am having a struggle feeling that feeling, or thinking that it's real or that it's genuine, even faking it doesn't feel like it's very fulfilling. Well, don't. You don't have to try so hard to make it be there, but you can keep searching, and you can keep allowing there to be the space for it to come in. Next breath, next moment, next day, next year, whatever. That's the thing. As long as we don't shut ourselves down because we think we've got nothing left, as long as we don't shut down, because everything can come back in, right? We can come back from those peripheries. We can find the center again, and then new understanding, compassion that doesn't exhaust me, right? Emotion that doesn't overwhelm me. Take one more breath, letting yourself get wider in your upper back. And then walk yourself back up onto your forearms or onto your hands. Again, either one. Bend your right knee, take your heel in towards your butt. Good, so that back leg bends, kick your heel in, and then you're reaching back with the left hand for the foot or the ankle, so a twisting quad stretch. Good, so watch that your heel doesn't start to fall inward towards the middle of your butt, as you want it to stay wide towards the outer edge, the right edge of your hip. And that means you have to stack your shoulders open more. So turn your ribs, turn your belly to the left. Good, and then keep that right thigh rooting down and slightly forward. So again, you're connecting the thigh up into the pelvis, getting even a deeper stretch on that quad. Good. Really good, Joanne. Nice, Marlene. Good, Lisa. And then slowly release, please. Foot and hands. Good. Sit towards that left hip, please. So you can swing your right leg all the way around in front of you. So both legs come forward. Yeah. Give your legs a little bit of a shake. Good. Yeah, and then stretch your legs out wide. So a wide-legged straddle, Upavista Konasana. You can use a blanket underneath your sit bones if you need. Left leg stays wide. Bring your right heel in towards your groin. So the right knee bends, foot in towards your groin, and let the knee drop open. So this is a variation on Janu Shirshasana. Good, and then you're sliding your left hand towards your left heel. Yep, reaching side stretch. And then take your right arm either over the ear or hand behind your head. You can totally keep the hand at your hip as well, but leaning towards that left leg, extend through the right arm. Good. Again, this focus on reaching out to the periphery and at the same time, dropping that right butt cheek down to the floor. So you keep that connection to the floor, keeping the connection to the center so that when you've gone as far as you can go, you can still feel where that energy is originating from and where it can return to. Good. Nice. Still leaning to your left, just start to turn your ribs, turn your belly towards that left leg. So you're turning so that your hands frame the left thigh now. Good. Letting both hands find the floor. Twisting from that lowest part of your waist, let yourself walk forward any amount more over that left thigh. Good. Keep your left foot awake. So again, I can't see any of your feet, but make sure that that left foot is doing something, either pointing or flexing. Flexing is usually what's recommended. And notice if you are flexing, and also if your thigh muscle is super hard because you're clenching it. Try to relax a little bit through that upper thigh. Good. Walk yourself all the way back to upright. Take your hands straight in front of you. So you're not changing the legs. Just take your hands so you're looking straight forward, and then walk your hands straight forward into a forward fold. So your right knee stays bent, left leg extended, just walk straight ahead. Good. And of course, if having the knee bent in that forward fold does not work, you can straighten the leg out to a wide straddle. Nice. And then walk yourself all the way back up, please. Nice job. Switch the legs, take your right leg out and wide, and then bend your left knee, bring the heel in towards the groin, knee drops open. Again, your foot may or may not be actively touching your right thigh. That's okay if it's not. Good. And then you're sliding your right hand inside edge of the leg, slide it towards that inner edge of your right heel, and then take your left arm either over the ear or hand behind your head, or again, keep it anchored at your hip. All of that works. Good. Chest opens towards the sky. So it's funny, right? However you usually feel in triangle pose is that here your torso is essentially doing the exact same action as triangle. Your hips are just on the floor instead of in that upright standing position. So yes, there are differences, but your torso is doing a lot of the same side body reaching, same side body extending. So keep dropping through that left butt cheek. Nice. Good, and then start to turn your belly towards the right thigh. So taking the hands to frame the right leg. Good, turning from the lowest part of your waist. So really from just at the top of your pelvis is where you want to be twisting from. And then let yourself walk forward any amount more over that thigh. Again, the right foot should be awake, should be active in some way. Flexed foot is what is traditionally recommended. We practice, physical practice of yoga is not to try to generate specific feelings. It's beautiful if we keep orienting our mind towards compassion or loving kindness or patience or whatever it is that we like to orient it towards. But it's not like you are creating those things out of nothing as though you didn't have it. It's just a pattern in your mind. And you're fueling it with your energy, you're fueling it with your prana. But you have other patterns that were in your mind for a lot longer. And so they also are going to be pulling at that prana. Just remember that your capacity to feel one thing, all things, is endless. And sometimes all we're doing is making a choice of consciously my energy is going here or there, or consciously I have to acknowledge where my energy is going, where it's being pulled. And so I stop trying to force it somewhere else. And instead I just stop neutral. Find my center again. And all of those things that we're wishing to feel, as they can come back next breath. But the trying will make you miserable. Walk yourself all the way back up, please. And then again, hands straight in front of you. So torso facing straight ahead. Walk yourself into that forward fold again, letting the left knee stay bent, right leg is extended. Just walk forward. Good. And then slowly walk yourself all the way back up. Nice, you guys, and release the legs. So an opportunity to do an inversion of your choice. Again, if you have a wall and you want to do legs up the wall or a supported shoulder stand, that's perfect. If you don't have a wall, you can certainly do shoulder stand without it, or place a block underneath your seat, legs up to the sky. If you have a wall and you want to do headstand, handstand, forearm stand, all of those are great options too. Choose your inversion. It's an opportunity to have the legs up. Again, inverting is considered soothing in many ways for the nervous system. So it might feel stressful to do it when you're learning it, but the being upside down and the reversing of the blood flow and orientation and all of that, nice for the nervous system. So give yourself some opportunity to, again, move everything from the periphery back towards the center. Good. Even come back to the breathing again, of feeling it going wide in all directions. And the exhale brings everything all the way back to, again, that unseen center. So not just the mind's experience, but where there is the unseen center of you. It's one of those things that, I contemplate late at night when I'm not sleeping when I should be, or something like that. But you start to wonder, does emotion begin when your mind labels it, or is the feeling there long before that? Right? Is the pattern there forever? And your mind just decides to pay attention in a moment and says, oh, that's what that is. It's that emotion. And I think it is probably that the feelings, the sensation, the emotion is there forever. It's there long before the mind makes up anything about it, has any decision about it. But somehow we think that things only exist when our mind is paying attention to them. So that unseen center of you is where this energy is able to just move in a very natural way, and it flows from one thing to another, and it contains. right? Emotional states that are very complex, that are not labeled in the same way that the mind labels them. So you are capable of feeling everything that you feel, and also that genuine feeling of compassion is always possible. If the mind is occupied too much elsewhere, it's going to say, I have no room for that, no time for that, no energy for that. I don't want to. It's fine. When that genuine feeling is there, you cannot mistake it. So we give the mind a break of trying to hold on to or generate one emotional reality. You find where there's a feeling of, I can really just be myself and my mind doesn't get to talk to me about it. What a thought. What a concept. And to know that that feeling of I don't want is not the same as I can't. Just like we know I don't want is not the same as I won't. As long as we leave space for there to be that rising up of a genuine feeling of compassion, a genuine feeling of wanting there to be an ease in the life of someone else. That's all. As long as we are open to that occurring, it will, because it's in you already. You don't have to put it on your shopping list. It's just teaching the mind to pay attention to that pattern, pay attention to that experience. Maybe instead of paying attention to a lot of other things. Your last couple of breaths where you are. And if you're in full shoulder stand and you want to take it into a plow pose, great idea. Good. And slowly start to bring yourself back into shoulder stand. If you've been in plow, let yourself come down one vertebra at a time. If you have a block underneath, you take your feet to the floor, move the block out from underneath. Good. And finding your way back onto your back if you've been in some other inversion, giving yourself a moment to release. And then lying on your back, please bring your right knee in towards your chest and curl your shoulders up off the floor so you can reach to hug that knee in, lifting the shoulders up off the floor. So like you're going to bring your forehead to that knee or knee to your forehead. Good. And now stay there. So the abdominals are working, right? You're hollowing your belly, your ribs. Relax your shoulders. Good. And keep your shoulders up, but relax the grip there. So it's more abdominals doing the work. And then float your left foot up off the floor as well. So keep your shoulders up. And now hug the left knee in and extend your right leg out in front of you. Keep your shoulders up. Good. And then switch again. Take the right knee and extend the left leg out. Keep your shoulders up. Good. Switch again. Good. And again, heels can touch the floor if they need, but if you can keep them both lifted, keep them lifted, keep switching. So with each breath, just switch the legs, nice and slow, controlled, keeping the shoulders up, abs engaged. Make sure you're breathing. Yeah, don't hold your breath for this. Keep breathing. Squeeze in and squeeze in. Good. And squeeze in. Again, finding the sensation of reaching out to the periphery with one leg and squeezing into the center with the other. Good. Last couple. Beautiful. Bring both knees in towards your chest. Squeeze them in. Relax the shoulders to the floor, please. Nice. And then go ahead and circle the knees, massaging the lower back. So the knees can either go in opposite directions from each other. They can go in the same direction. Just a little massage. Good. And then switch the direction that you are going. Nice. And then bring the knees back to center. Please scoot your hips to the left, drop your knees to the right, let your arms go wide, spinal twist. And absolutely, if having the arms out wide feels like it's just a lot of pull on the shoulder, you can take that left arm up alongside your ear. So it becomes more of a stretch through the side body and less of a forceful twist through the back. Less about your shoulder. Good. Come back to center, please. Scoot your hips over to the right. Drop your knees to the left. And bring yourself back to center, please. And again, stretching the legs out in front of you, arms alongside you, palms up. Shavasana. Letting yourself drop into that really easeful expansion and contraction that is the breath. It's always happening. Letting yourself feel where there is a center in you that is not the mind. A place that feels, that doesn't think. Very gently bring the awareness back to your breath. Let your body begin to stretch, move, whatever ways serve it well. And as you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest. Roll to your right side. And take a moment before you begin to push the floor away. Come back to an upright seated position. And bring the hands back together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. And feeling again that as wide as the breath can go, it always comes back to the same place. Always comes back to the center, and that's where it begins again. And the center is not in your mind. The more we are in touch with this central place that our energy flows from and returns to, as we feel less of that fatigue that we somehow have to create reality in a certain way and maintain it, or that our emotions have to always be in one direction but not another. And let the mind take a break from trying to do what is impossible, which is to keep itself from feeling everything that we feel. And instead, we give ourselves the opportunity to remember that just because in a moment it feels like we don't want to, it doesn't mean that we can't. That there's that endless opportunity that the next breath, we can drop into that feeling again, or it can arise naturally. We don't have to try to force it. We don't have to try to make it real when it doesn't feel like it's real. And the important thing is that when we hit that edge of that fatigue or that exhaustion, is that we don't give up. It's the only thing that really disrupts our practice is if we give up and say, well, because I don't want to, it means I can't and I won't. Then we get really stuck. So instead, we just get neutral. All right, not right now. Next breath, I can come back to that. Compassion will return. Patience will return. Everything will return. Give yourself a break. You find that endless center and you keep coming back to it, and everything that you want, need, are will originate from there. Will expand from there. Just don't give up. Close with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. I will see you when I see you. Bye.
Thank you.